Well, where to even begin with Roger? So many stories, so many people. Jack Nicholson, Martin Scorsese, Jonathan Demme, William Shatner. Yes, it's all true. Vincent Price. This is the guy. If you want to say, where did these people come from? Him. He gave them their big break. He helped them in the early years of Hollywood in their careers. He's been here a long time and behind some legendary productions and quite literally shepherded an entire generation of actors, directors, producers, writers. It's an incredible story. So, where did Roger come from? Well, he came from the 1950s doing, frankly, I guess you want to call them creature features. He did some fairly low budget efforts. In fact, his films have always been notorious for being within a small budget, but again, it's not always the best filmmaker that does the biggest impact. He's definitely a peculiar director and writer. One of his big loves was Edgar Allan Poe. I'm a big fan of Poe myself. Apparently, Sylvester Stallone is a big Poe guy too, so interesting. So, yes, he's very Poist. Did a lot of weird horror movies, I think you could say that. War films, women's film too. He just did all kinds of films. Science fiction, was into many, many different pies throughout his entire life. Very interesting fellow. But again, we all know his probably biggest legacy is acting as a kind of transmission belt for these massive, and I do mean massive Hollywood stars. And here we're going to hear Jack Nicholson getting kind of teary eyed about recollecting how much Roger really helped him in his early years, because really, Jack did a lot, and I do mean a lot of film work, which is not that great, but it paid the bills and helped set the foundations of his superstardom decades later.
I hope he knows that this is not all hot air. I'm gonna cry now. Not just me, who's very sentimental, but these other people also love him.
So, yes, it's all very touching that Roger has impacted so many people. And although I do like fictional films, I am also a big fan of documentaries. And apparently, there's a very good documentary on him and his legacy. So, I'll try to get to that and do a review. Again, he's been here so long, it's hard to know where to even begin. But again, probably his Poe work as a director will be where he shines out as an auteur. But auteur doesn't just mean directing, it means also producing and writing. And he has been behind so many projects. Probably people are more familiar with the remakes of these projects, but nevertheless, he's made his mark with these very strange sci-fi horror properties that have been updated and revised. And again, he was just part of so many things. Probably the on the directing side, James Cameron is his biggest credit. James Cameron acknowledges his influence quite a lot. But again, in terms of actual film projects, Martin Scorsese's Boxcar Bertha, which I admit I've seen almost every Scorsese film, but Boxcar, I need to get that on the bucket list because it's, again, not a great film. It's a very strange film, kind of a Depression era film. And it's Scorsese working with David Carradine. I know it's such a weird project, but that's basically Roger's métier. He just did the strangest, weirdest kind of projects with, again, the most unlikely collaborators. Another fun fact is actually Scorsese and him were going to do Mean Streets, but again, at the time, black exploitation was huge. Again, black films were making a lot of money, and Roger tried to convince him, saying, "Well, I want to support you, and this is a good project, but you got to make it all black." And Scorsese is like, I understand that. That's where the money is, but no, it has to be an Italian background. He's like, "Well, I can't help you then." So it's a very weird thing. So Roger's a very nice guy, very artistic guy, but very commercially minded. If black films were selling, he did black films. If horror films are selling, he's going to do a horror film. If sci-fi films are doing, well, we're going to do that. He just basically was a very commercial minded person, but always decent. As far as I know, had no bad business deals, always upfront with people, insanely friendly, just a really, really nice guy. Really, the best equivalent here is Stan Lee. As a lot of people noted, there's a lot of parallels between his career and Stan Lee that he quite literally created his own cinematic universe. But again, it's not like Stan, it didn't make bazillions of dollars. But if you do know Hollywood and comic book culture and just fantasy culture, he was huge. He was massive, massive. So it's sad to see him go. He's being rightly honored, but really we can't do enough for him because he's just behind so many people and he's getting quite a few accolades. Probably the most touching one was John Carpenter because Carpenter If you know Carpenter, man, he's the king, but he can be brutal. He likes what he likes, he doesn't like what he doesn't like, and if he gets your respect, to me that says everything about you. That John Carpenter, the man behind Halloween and so many of my favorite films, thinks you're a real guy and a real decent person. So say la vie, Roger. We'll try to continue the legacy. Goodbye, dear old friend.